The format of this meeting is a 10-minute speaker, a 10-minute coffee break, and then a main speaker. Tonight, our first speaker is Sara. Help me welcome Sara to the stage.
Hello. I'm Sara. I'm alcoholic. But you can call me Sara if you want. Because I'm sharing tonight. Oh, okay. I'm really grateful to be here. This is a pretty special place tonight because we're all here sober or on our way to being sober, and it's just really good. I'm also excited because John's sharing tonight, and so I'm not going to live up to that, but I'll do my best. I'll share for a little bit. Get my little watch here. So my name is Sara, and I am an alcoholic. And my sobriety date is March 13th, 4 years ago and change. And thank you. Yeah. And my home group is the Tuesday night Big Book and Step Study at 7 p.m. I like to share that because one of my first meetings as an alcoholic was a speaker meeting in Flagstaff where there was like twice as many people there. And this woman got up and she shared her name. She shared she was an alcoholic. She shared her sobriety date. And then she shared her home group. And the amazing thing about that is I, for some reason, remembered that. And even though I had never been to Prescott, I found myself here 9 months later. And I remembered her name and her home group, and I went and I found her. And I was like, I want to be sober. I want what you have. I don't know what you said, but I know that I want to find you and just have some connection. So that's where you can find me on Tuesday nights. Anyway, yeah. I guess we'll just start with what it was like. And there's an older guy that shares at one of the meetings I go to somewhat regularly, and he always says, it doesn't matter how much we drank or what we did, all that matters is what we're doing about our life today. And that's always really stood out to me because especially I came in at 25. I just celebrated my 30th birthday. And coming in, I was really unsure that I had drank enough, that I had done enough to really qualify as an alcoholic. That changed after I started listening and hearing other stories and relating to feelings in experiences. Another guy was sharing about being in LA County Jail 15,000 times and motorcycles and tattoos and stuff, and I'm like, I have nothing in common with him. And then I heard some of the pain. I heard about those bottoms, the vulnerability of just being totally powerless. Not just over alcohol, but also over life in general. Just I am on the verge of death. I have no control in my life. And I've related to that because I started drinking when I was 14, and like a lot of folks, I had a very visceral experience with that first drink. I did black out that night, so some of those memories go away. But from that point on, I knew that this was my life. And it started out seemingly normal. As a teenager surrounded by a bunch of other teenagers drinking and drugging in similar ways, it just didn't occur to me that it was an issue. And it took me to I think it was fun until 17. And that's when I started having not just the classic consequence of my dad slapping my wrist, it was then I started having real consequences. as Kirk likes to joke, I crashed in a couple cars, and there were cops coming. And that was all part of my experience. And then growing up and moving away, I left home. I'm from Philadelphia, and I left home when I was 18. And then the adult life responsibilities were on me. But I was also, at this point, drinking to blackouts at least like 70% of the time. Sleep wasn't really a thing. It was like passing out was what I did. I had a lot of trouble sleeping, so I just would go until I was gone. And that was just the way it was. Like, I don't always have the words for it, but it was just like normal. It was my normal functioning, was that lifestyle. And I remember a couple mornings when I started getting hangovers, so this is later, and having these just like searing headaches and shaking, like as I would try to stand up or even like sit up, just like shaking and like not being able to drink water because I felt so nauseous. I couldn't even like get water down. And then just going into the hot shower and like having to like collapse in it. And then I would just cry. I would just like be in the shower just crying with no way to identify like what I was upset about, no memory of what I had done the night before. Sometimes I would have evidence of it, like a pile of vomit next to my bed, or like clothes where they're not supposed to be, or cars not where they're supposed to be. So sometimes I had evidence and sometimes I didn't. And what that did to me was it created such an insecurity and such a hole, because I would walk around life not knowing, who I was, but also like not knowing who I screwed over or who I manipulated. Like, I couldn't look people in the eye because I just wasn't sure if I had done anything with you, to you, you know, whatever. It's like, and it was a terrible feeling for me, to the point where I got so depressed, started going to a therapist, had, you know, I was going to say like run-ins with suicidal thoughts, but that's not really, you know, like that was on the table for me. So for a while, I was kind of maybe feeling better, and it had been suggested to me. I was about like in my early 20s. Holy cow! Okay, so then we got sober, and this is really when it started. This is really when my life started changing, because chicken or the egg. Like, I thought that I drank because I was so depressed. And then I did actions and I was a person that made me more depressed. And those two just fed each other. So I wasn't sure I was alcoholic. I honestly thought I was like just depressed and then drank alcoholically because of it. And it wasn't until I reached my low bottom in Salt Lake City. It was -20 out at night, which is nothing like that wind chill. I was living out of my car. I had no money. I had a credit card that I had maxed out on stupid stuff. And I'm outside. I just lost my job for drinking. And I'm outside the Salt Lake City library waiting to get in to do some job searching. And a bunch of the guys that live on the streets there were also doing that. And one guy approached me and he's like, "So are you homeless?" And I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm definitely not." He's like, "Well, do you have a home?" And I'm like, "No, not technically, but I got my car or whatever, you know." And he's like, "Do you have a job?" And I'm like, "No, that's kind of why I'm here." And he's like, "Oh, so you're homeless." And I'm like, that, for some reason, that hit me like a flood, where it was like, this is my life, where I am. And that led me through a couple steps to Alcoholics Anonymous. I met people old, young, male, female, that had stories really similar to mine. And I would sit in the back of the room and kind of hate them. I came in with like 1 foot in, and it took me about 9 months to get 2 feet in. And my life changed when I put 2 feet in, because before that I was just on the sidelines. I wasn't really feeling the relief or the gifts or the freedom of this program. So I was still pretty messed up, even though I wasn't putting alcohol into my system. When I put 2 feet in, that involved getting a sponsor that I met with, and I talked. That's the same time. Oh, whatever. Okay, we're good. I met a sponsor that I met with and I talked to on a regular basis. I read the book and started studying it and looking up words, asking other alcoholics about what they thought of certain things in the book and in life. I started going to meetings on a regular, scheduled basis, including taking on commitments and being a part of the community. I started praying, which was something that I didn't have in my life before, and I can't emphasize enough that like that higher power has been one of the driving forces in my recovery. And those are the things I do today. And when I don't do, and I started working the steps for sure. And those are the things that I do today. And when I don't do them, I go really quickly away. I go back towards my alcoholism. And I get these flashes of like, you said you're one, and welcome, and congratulations on 24 years. Like, I'm one step away from picking up a drink and driving my car onto the interstate the wrong way. You know, like, that is how quickly I will progress. And that's why I stay in the program. And I don't know which one of those things is working for me. I just know that I don't want to take them away and experiment anymore. I also, I drink a lot of LaCroix. I still have to get home from work and like crack open the can. Like, I'm still addicted to that just feeling of like cracking something open. I don't know if that's working for me, but I do that too. You know, so like there's these set things, but there's also like just really little things about my daily life that I've changed. And then lastly, it's just been building up a fellowship of all kinds of people, but particularly like younger people in the program, so that I have stuff to do on weekends and I have people to call and shoot the shit with, you know. That has been so important in my sobriety, to just feel like I have a life, because I really thought it was over. I thought I would never have fun again. I thought I wouldn't have friends. I thought my whole life would be boring. I sat in my first year of sobriety, I would sit on the couch, I'd be like reading a book, and I would start crying because I'd be like, this is so freaking boring. Like, I hate this and I want to get out. Like, I don't want my life to be so dull. And then what I realized was, like, as I brought a bunch of other dull, sober people into my life, like, they weren't dull. We were having so much more fun. And, like, today I can play board games and, like, go on a walk in the woods. Like, those are you kidding me? Like, that's what I thought I would do if I ever got old and became, like, a grandma. But those are the things I like. I like doing those things today. And I'll just kind of close with this. I have this experience where I was on the plane coming back from my grandmother's funeral, who was someone that was really important to me. I was a couple years sober, and we had been delayed because of snow. We'd been delayed because of a cat. It was just like not a good start to the trip, and the stewardesses or flight attendants started coming around with free booze for everyone, and I started freaking out. Like, instantly I'm like, I'm taking one, because I had no accountability to anyone on that plane. No one would know, and I felt it. And I couldn't use my phone because we're already, like, you know, in no phone zone or whatever. And I didn't have my AA book, big book, because I wasn't, you know, a good alcoholic that had it downloaded on my phone or whatever. And then I, like, didn't have a meeting. So all I did was just sit there and pray. And having that experience with my higher power is one of the things I remind myself is like, we've built up this huge safety net around us if we're lucky. And sometimes it's just me and my higher power. Like sometimes that's the situation. So I just really like to share that because I know that that's like what carried me here. I've heard the grace of God used a lot, and I also know that at the end of this meeting, like we're going to pray for alcoholics that are still sick and suffering in and out of these rooms. And I know that sometimes I am that person, and I know that I certainly was that person before I found Alcoholics Anonymous. And so I'm really grateful for all of you for praying for me. And I'm also just really grateful that I get to pray for you all. And hopefully I'll get to see you all again because it's a good place, and like coming back is it's really the only way I got it. So thank you for letting me share. And that's all.
Thanks, Sarah.